Hi, I'm Michelle, a therapist, a mom, and a human figuring things out in real time. This is Someday is Here, a space for honest conversations about growth, relationships, and what it means to keep going even when life feels heavy. I'm really glad you're here. Before we get started, I wanted to say thank you to a listener who shared some thoughtful feedback about adding a short intro. I really appreciate it, and I am always open to hearing what's helpful for you. There are seasons in life where nothing is technically wrong, nothing is on fire, there's no major crisis, and yet everything can still feel heavy. That's the place I've been sitting in lately. And I know from the messages I get and the conversations I have that I'm not alone in this. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes when your life looks stable from the outside, but your nervous system hasn't quite caught up yet. When your body is still holding on to stress, grief, uncertainty, even after the big changes have already happened. Sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to name that heaviness because we tell ourselves, I should be fine by now, or other people have it worse. But our nervous systems don't respond to logic. They respond to our lived experiences. And today, I wanted to talk about that in between space when you're functioning, showing up, doing the things, but inside, something feels tender, tired, or maybe just a little overwhelmed. Lately, I feel like all of the life transitions that have been made and the things that have happened over the last year plus have really been snowballing into like this heaviness of like I survived this stuff, I did this stuff, but I'm still, I think my nervous system is still in like the waiting for the other shoe to drop phase, right? Like, okay, we did all these things and we survived these things. So now what's next? And this is something I've been working on for years in trying to help me calm my nervous system because we lived in such a state of survival mode, being young parents and, just one thing to the next, and just trying to get through everything and survive. My nervous system is built for that. And so when things kind of calm down and quiet, my nervous system doesn't know how to respond. And I think there's a lot of people who live this way. And so, a lot of the work that I have been doing is in learning to like ground myself and learning to say no to things that don't serve me, things that I just don't have the emotional energy or capacity for, or things that don't excite me, right? And I'm not talking about doing laundry or cooking dinner, right? Like the things we kind of have to do most of the time. I'm talking about like parent teacher, not parent teacher things, but like, school activities that are like, hey, can you volunteer for this? Like, I volunteer for some of the things, but I don't volunteer for everything like I used to. And, I think a lot of us spend a good portion of our, early midlife years in this caring for others stage, right? Where like most of our focus is on our families and our, whether that be your children or your parents or, grandparents, whoever it is, our lives are really ingrained in caretaking. And we carry a lot of responsibility because not only are we trying to often manage our households, but we're also trying to help manage others' households as well, like our parents and things like that. And then we also have the state of the world. And I'm not going to get into it on here too deeply, but as a social worker and an advocate, I know personally how hard and frustrating it is to be living in the state that we're living in and watching what other human beings are getting put through, and knowing that there's very little that I can do other than calling our state representatives and working on the advocacy side of things. And it's hard when you don't have control over situations. And so, one small thing that I've been working on for me that's helping to ground me is knowing what I actually have control over. And that's myself, my actions, and what I do. And so, I am entering this world with a little bit more grace for others and really trying to focus on being kind, because you never know what someone's going through. And so when I'm out and about in the world, I really do focus on trying to be kind to people. And sometimes it feels like enough and sometimes it doesn't. And I think that's just the reality of the world we are living in today. But something I've learned both personally and professionally is that unacknowledged stress doesn't disappear. It goes quiet for a while, and then it shows up in our bodies, in our patience, our motivation, or even in our relationships. And often, when we don't feel like ourselves anymore, we assume something is wrong with us. But what if this isn't a personal failure? What if it's simply a nervous system that has been thinking and working over time? I know my nervous system is tired when I feel like I get a little bit more irritable or emotional around things that I maybe normally wouldn't. I really have a hard time shutting my brain off at night. When my nervous system is really dysregulated, it keeps wanting to tell me all the things I should have done or I didn't do, or that I could have done better. Or don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. I feel overwhelmed by small tasks. I feel disconnected from people I care about. Um, I often, maybe I'm not going out with friends or I'm not, reaching out to people as much. I definitely have a change in my energy levels. Um, and sometimes, as a protective factor, one thing I can do is I could go emotionally numb, like where I just kind of turn it all off. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing for short periods of time, right? Like sometimes we do need to just shut our system down and like let things go and rest. But the important part is that we always have to come back to whatever it is that we pushed back, right? Because otherwise nothing's getting solved and nothing's getting processed. So it's okay if you disconnect and disassociate on, TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or in a television show or in a book for a while and just kind of give yourself some time to reset. But the important part is coming back to whatever it is that you are trying to get away from. You have to come back and do the work. Otherwise, it is never going to go away. We live in a culture that pushes resolutions, answers, fixes. For $9.99, buy this. For $10.99, do that. Or if you do this makeup and skincare routine, you'll look 10 years younger, right? Like everything's getting pushed at us that we have to be and show up and act and look in a certain way. But sometimes the most regulating thing that we can do is stop asking, how do I get out of this? And instead ask, what does my body need right now in this moment? Because healing isn't always active. Sometimes it's receptive. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it looks like lowering expectations instead of raising motivation. If I stop pushing myself through this season, what do I think would change? If I looked at the world and myself from a perspective of rest versus productivity. So instead of being focused on always, what do I have to do next? Instead, saying, what does my body need from me right now? And being okay with resting. Because when I take the time to rest, I am more likely to be more productive on the other side of it. Or letting things be good enough. This one was torture for me. I started really working at this probably about 5 years ago, just being good enough. And it's still something I struggle with all the time. Like, I have to constantly check in with myself. Like, am I doing this to be perfect? Right? Like this podcast that I talked about in one of the last episodes. Like, am I doing this to be perfect? Or am I doing this because it brings me joy? So is good enough, like just me showing up, good enough? Like just me being real, good enough? Or do I have to be perfect? What matters more? Asking for support. Again, something I'm not always great at. I am the caretaker. I'm the one who, by my own decision, is, spends a lot of time taking care of everyone else. And I love that. But on the other side of it, when I need support, it can be really hard for me to ask or even to accept someone else's offering of support, because I will say, like, Sean is really good at noticing when I'm overwhelmed and offering support, but sometimes I'm not always the best at saying, yes, thank you. Right? I almost feel like I have to double down. Like, I'm good. I got it. Right? And allowing emotions without explanation. Again, this one is something that I have been working on a lot over the last few years. Like, I always feel like I had to explain everything, like my decisions, why I'm feeling a certain way, why I'm responding in a way, instead of letting the emotion just be enough. So I want to say this clearly in case someone needs to hear it. If you are dealing with similar things, or maybe even something that is completely different, right? You are not behind. You are not weak, and you are not failing, because this season feels heavy. Sometimes the work isn't doing more. It's listening more closely to ourselves. And if today all you can do is name what you're carrying, that's not nothing. That's awareness. And awareness is often the first step to regulation. Next week, I'm going to bring Sean in, and we're going to talk about how this kind of stress and the emotional load shows up inside a relationship. Because we don't live in isolation. But for right now, just know this. You don't have to justify your exhaustion to deserve care. Because you deserve it exactly as you are, exactly with whatever you're carrying right now in this moment. Please take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next episode.